I'm about to. The push notification? I didn't get a push notification. I think I have them turned off. Yeah. I guess that's it. Well, 3 full minutes. What did he do? I didn't do shit. Happy Happy election night, everybody. Brian here with you, Cade Wassan producing. We're holding it down for the next 2 hours as polls are now closed throughout the state of Louisiana. All the ballots are in. Let the counting begin. We've got you here covered for, like I said, from 8 till 10 p.m. At 10 p.m., we're going to hand off full-time to ABC News. Tonight's rundown, I would love you to give you the rundown from start to finish, but tonight's rundown is going to be very, very much in the moment. We've got a number of candidates that we're going to be checking in with, but this is how it goes on an election night when you're checking in on victory parties. When can you grab the candidate, and how long can you keep them before they're back to the celebration? So tonight's show will be kind of fluid, kind of moving. Can't tease what's coming next, except to say these two things. There are two guests on the rundown that are where they're going to be. Coming up at 8:15, we're going to talk with Brian Clark. He is on ABC News' decision desk tonight. So as you hear states come across for Trump or for Harris, Brian Clark is in the thick of it right there. You heard in the news at the top of the hour, South Carolina already gone to Trump. Indiana has already gone to Trump. We'll start to give you more of a clearer picture of who's gone where as the night wears on. But to be perfectly honest, when we talk to Brian at 8:15, and that's pretty much going to be the extent of our national coverage. We're not here for the national coverage. You can get that everywhere. You're going to get it from ABC News throughout the show right here tonight. But we're here to bring you coverage of everything that's happening locally. And boy, do we have a lot happening locally. Let's go ahead and start with this. We've got a mayor president's race in East Baton Rouge Parish that is garnering a lot of attention and turning a lot of heads. We're going to be on top of this one all night. This is probably the premier issue for the night. Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome looking for her third term in Baton Rouge. Polling numbers heading into Election Day, depending on which poll you looked at, were not all that favorable for the incumbent mayor. Broome was actually polling, according to one poll, at third place for the incumbent looking for her third term, trailing behind Ted James, significantly behind Ted James, and behind Emil Sid Edwards. You know what? Election's over. I can stop calling him Emil now. On the ballot, he was Emil Sid Edwards. His people asked, hey, can you say his name the way it is on the ballot, just, for clarification purposes? So, yes, he's back to Sid now that the polls are closed. Anyway, in that poll, Broome was trailing both of them. So we're going to find out over the next hour or so how accurate polls are or how inaccurate they are, not just in that race, but in the congressional race as well. We're going to check in the second with Congressman Troy Carter before it's all said and done tonight. He's down in New Orleans. We're also going to check in with Congresswoman Julia Letlow. She is in Tiger Stadium, actually. Julia Letlow in that newly mapped 5th district. Her district spans from northeast Louisiana all the way down here, actually through eastern parts of East Baton Rouge Parish, some of Ascension and a lot of Livingston, and then through the Florida parishes as well. So as she's adopted her new southern wing of her district, Julia Letlow is setting up Victory headquarters over there in the South End Zone, the club and South Stadium Club in Tiger Stadium. So we will check in with her as the night wears on. We will have a few mayoral candidates on as well. I've got feelers out to both Sid Edwards' people, Ted James' people, talking with, trying to run down Sharon Weston Broom as well as the night wears on. But like I said, there's going to be a whole lot of who can we grab and win, just because that's a very, very fluid election night. Also on the show tonight, I can tell you in the 9 o'clock hour, Metro Councilman Dwight Hudson is going to join us at 9, just after the 9:30 break. We're talking with Councilman Hudson about one particular item that was on the ballot here in Baton Rouge, but it's a pretty big deal. That item is, it was listed as, scrolling all the way down my ballot here, PW Home Rule Charter Amendment. This was, PW stands for parish-wide, by the way. A parish-wide Home Rule Charter Amendment changes basically our form of government, gives us a city manager, to be sure, but does so many other different things. We talked with a few different councilpersons about this leading up to the election. One in particular that we spoke with was Rowdy Goday, who really spelled the whole thing out for us from start to finish. Now, it's got a lot of good in it, but when you have 46 items combined into one ballot item, there's no way you're going to bat 1,000. So the big question on this one as the votes are being tallied is, how many people decided, I'm going to bail because I don't like a few things versus liking the whole thing? That's going to be important to check in on. Also, a couple of judge races that are on the ballot as well. We'll see if we can't check in there. In fact, Niles Hamer's running for city judge on city court. The constable's race is on the ballot as well. We'll be checking in on that one. So basically everything that is local that we can get our hands on, we will be getting our hands on throughout the evening. And along with that, we will have check-ins from the Louisiana Radio Network and the, after the bottom of the hour as well. Louisiana Radio Network with updates from around the state, and also ABC News, top and bottom of the hour, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. All right, so it's always tough in this first segment because there's no numbers yet. It's hard to get numbers this early on in pulling up election results because the polls just closed 9 minutes ago. What I can tell you right now is, and this is, like I said, super early, so don't count on it a whole lot. In the state of Louisiana, Donald Trump has a ginormous lead. This is not unexpected. They're probably going to call Louisiana for Trump in very short order if they haven't already. I need to turn my notifications back on. If they haven't already, with only 345,714 votes in. Donald Trump has 250,000 of them. Pretty significant amount right there. Kamala Harris with 93,000. So she is trailing dramatically in the presidential race here in Louisiana. On the congressional side, let me give you the early rundown here as well. Now, a lot of this is, let's see, early and absentee reporting, but it's not all of the early and absentee reporting. For example, in the 1st Congressional District, they have 3 of 10 parishes reported already. Steve Scalise out in front by a pretty significant margin with 10,491 votes. Mel Manuel, the Democrat there, 2,263. He's in second. In the 2nd Congressional District, you got Congressman Troy Carter with 2 of 10 parishes reporting for early and absentee voting right there. 9,767 for Congressman Carter. This is actually a closer race than one might think. There are 2 Republicans right now splitting votes here on a pretty significant level. Christy Lynch has 6,047, and Devin Lance Graham has 5,600. So early voting, like we said, it's super early. It's way too early to make any projections. This is like when a batter steps into the batter's box on their first at-bat of the season and hits a home run, and someone says they're on pace to hit 500 home runs on the year. Yeah, no, this is not. This is where we are right now. 2 of 10 parishes early in absentee voting being reported, but we're seeing 2 Republicans totaling 15,600 votes versus Congressman Carter's 12,737. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'm sure those numbers are going to change. Early voting in the 3rd, Clay Higgins, he's almost got this locked up already. 7 of 11 parishes reporting from early voting. Clay Higgins in with 72% of the vote already, 67,000 and change. His closest competitor is Priscilla Gonzalez at 17,877 for 19% of the vote. In the 4th congressional district that belongs to Mike Johnson and looks like it likely will as well. Early and absentee reporting, 12 of 20 parishes. Election day reporting, 3 of 769 precincts. And Mike Johnson already has 69,546 votes, worth 85% of that race. In the 5th congressional district, Julia Letlow with 59,000 and change. Michael Valian is in 2nd with 17,350. So Julia Letlow with 15 of 21 parishes reporting their early and absentee numbers. Julia Letlow has 69% of the vote. And in the 6th congressional district, we know that Republicans were heavy voting early. We know that there was a Republican lean in voting early when we just witnessed that in talking about Troy Carter's battle. Well, the same is true for Cleo Fields right now, 22,545. And by the way, early voting, 5 of 10 parishes reporting in the 6th congressional district. Albert Guillory has 22,545 or 57% of the vote. Cleo Fields at 35% with 13,830. Taking you know what? I want to stay on time here because we've only got the ABC decision desk for a hot minute. So we'll pick back up with we'll pick back up with the mayor's race after we check in with ABC right here on Talk 107.3. Get me an out time. Out time. What time does he have to go? Because I know he's stacked. 20? We can do that. We can do that. Well, and it's only half the parishes reporting. How long is this break? Okay, so we'll be back in by 16-ish. Okay. That gives me 4 minutes with Brian. All right. Man, I looked up at the clock and I'm like, it's the first freaking segment and I'm already late. And this is the guy that I want for the longest period of time. But I also know so does everybody else in the country. Like, yeah, he's working the decision desk or he's reporting from the decision desk. So it's if I can get 3 questions in with him, what goes into the decision, like what's too early to call and yeah. Yeah. And who do you have coming out of the NFC in the Super Bowl? Yeah. When are you comfortable calling a state for a particular candidate? And are the Saints better off without Dennis Allen? Yes, always, always on Facebook Live. And good evening, Facebook Live. Welcome to election night. You survived the day. Yeah. Fucking baller. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Is this our last spot? Okay. Yeah, move that other one to the last break. I want to get to this guy. Yes, it is the heart of election night. Yes, we're already running late. Let's go right to the hotline here. Got a man who's in demand tonight. Brian Clark is with ABC News on their decision desk. Brian, welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
No, glad to have you on. Glad to be talking here. Okay, I know we're only 17 minutes since polls closed in Louisiana, and we got a whole lot going on around the country, but what do we already know?
We already know that Republicans took their first step, a step we expected towards retaking the Senate, in that Jim Justice is projected the winner of the seat held by Joe Manchin in West Virginia. So that's just step one for Republicans. The big story, of course, is the presidential election. And we really don't know a whole lot more than we did, a few hours ago or a few days ago. This is a razor-tight race, and it does feel like this is going to go into tomorrow, into maybe Thursday, into Friday, before we know a winner, because it's really all going to come down to the swing states. But we are trying to extract some numbers from the exit polling based on, what's animating voters, what's getting voters to the polls. And two things that I think jumped out to me, at least. Pennsylvania and Arizona, two very important states. They put Joe Biden over the top 4 years ago. About half of voters in each state in our preliminary exit polls say they're worse off economically than they were 4 years ago. And that's usually bad news for an incumbent party. We'll see if it's bad news for Kamala Harris as the Democrat trying to keep the White House Democratic. But those are some of the exit poll numbers that jumped out to me.
We're talking with Brian Clark from ABC News' Decision Desk. Brian, if you could, break down for me what goes into making a call, because oftentimes we'll see, a decision desk is ready to call a state for a certain candidate when there's only like 30% reporting, or we already saw Indiana called for Trump with only 15% reporting. What goes into making that decision to say, let's go ahead and call it?
Well, there's a very strict formula that I don't know about. I'm not kidding either. It's like closely guarded. But basically what it comes down to, it's a calculation of how many, where is the vote coming from that we're still waiting for. And if it's an area that's traditionally favoring one party or another, there are people who are able to make the calculations that this is going to be, favoring one candidate or another. So that way we can make that projection. Now, of course, the projection game, it's really tightened up since 2000, of course, with what happened in Florida with the Bush-Gore election. So if it's close, we're not going to do that. But in a state like Indiana, where Donald Trump had, a comfortable polling lead, Republicans have carried Indiana in almost every election for the last 90 years. You start from a different perspective. And then when you see the numbers come in, they match what you're thinking, you're comfortable to make that projection.
Just 1 minute left with Brian Clark from ABC News. And that last minute, Brian, looking ahead, what can we expect timeline-wise? Is there any traditional timeline to follow as to when states get called along the way?
There's really not. And we're actually we got some news that there was an issue in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin, an important state, with the processing of about 31,000 absentee ballots. So they're going to have to basically rerun them. The city's doing that right now. So that's only going to delay things in Wisconsin. But as far as a timeline, some states are faster than others in counting. We could know Georgia tonight. We know Florida tonight, but Florida's not as, it's not a swing state like it used to be.
Right.
But in terms of Pennsylvania or Arizona, you can't put a timeline on that.
Yeah, and those two seem like they're going to be the crux of the whole thing, though. I'm not expecting a winner to be declared tonight at all. Are you?
I'm not. I think there might have been a point you could see it breaking one way or another. Maybe we learn tonight, but it does seem unlikely.
He is Brian Clark with ABC News on their decision desk. Man, I know you're in demand tonight. I know you got to get to your next hit. I appreciate a couple minutes.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Brian Clark with ABC News. All right, so he doesn't know the Colonel's recipe either. And that was exactly why I asked the question, by the way. What goes into making the call? There's a stack of metrics that factor into it. But like you said, it's what vote is in, how do they vote traditionally, what vote is left, how do they vote traditionally, and is there if there's an overwhelming number of Republican heavy precincts that are out there that haven't been turned in yet, and the Republican already has a lead, you call it for the Republican. Interesting stuff there from Brian Clark about the Senate side as well, talking about one Senate seat flipped already in West Virginia. We'll dig back into that when we rejoin ABC News coming up here in a little more than eight minutes from right now. Right now, though, let's go back into locally, where we're at right now. I know numbers are early, and it's difficult when you talk about trying to make heads or tails of what's going on with the numbers being this premature, but we're running with what we've got. So moving from, oh, you know what? We have no numbers on the mayor's race yet. Not a one. 0 of 1 parishes reporting and no precincts reporting just yet. I thought at the very least we'd have the early vote for East Baton Rouge. All right, so Baton Rouge's early and absentee votes are not in yet. That is interesting, to say the least. Okay. Statewide, let's move things back out a little bit. I do want to check in on that constitutional amendment. There's a constitutional amendment on the ballot that provides relative to federal proceeds from alternative energy production. The long and the short of this constitutional amendment started as a bill by Representative Joseph Ogeron. The bill passed both sides of our legislature, was signed off on the governor. That's what put it on your ballot today. And
no question.
Not that Ogeron. The bill passed both sides of the legislature, was signed by the governor. That's what put it on your ballot for today. And essentially what it says is, you know how we drill for oil and gas in the Gulf of Mexico, and we get a certain percentage of royalties fed back to the state? Like, what do you do with those dollars? And then thanks to Go Mesa, we get more of a little bit more of those dollars. Well, we're about to move into a world that has a whole lot more of alternative energy. So what are we doing with those dollars? If alternative energy is generated, like let's say a wind farm or a solar farm that's out over the water, that's out over the Gulf of Mexico, what would we do with the revenue generated by those dollars? Well, this constitutional amendment would funnel those dollars back to the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority. Now, side note, the CPRA, as we'll call them, they've got a 50-year, $50 billion master plan that they have to fund. It's a bold plan. I love the plan because, well, it keeps me off the coast here in Baton Rouge. CPRA does phenomenal work rebuilding, physically building land along our coast, protecting us from hurricanes and trying to undo a lot of the erosion that's been done. Now, this is money coming in from these alternative energies that does not yet exist because we're not making money off of it yet. So since it's money that doesn't exist, it's money that isn't dependent upon something. So this constitutional amendment takes away from no one from jump. Nope, this money doesn't exist yet. So what do you want to do when we get it here? That's what we're saying. You don't have to defund anybody. You don't have to lay anybody off. You're not taking food out of a baby's mouth. This is money that is yet to be. So that was a big yes for me on this one. And with 52 of 64 parishes reporting, 4 of 3,805 precincts reporting, this one's getting a yes thus far. 356,888 votes to 27% no at 135,058. So, again, still super duper early, to be sure, but nonetheless, it's a big lead to start off with. Let's check in on a couple of other parishes as we move around here. And, by the way, throughout the night, like we said, we're going to hear from a whole bunch of candidates on and off, but a lot of them are going to be quick hit throughout. So it's going to be a balance of conversation and then numbers, conversation and then numbers. All right, we've got, I tell you what, let's check in Ascension Parish real quick because there's a couple of, well, there's multi-parish races over there. For example, Public Service Commission District 2 is one race that's out that way. It'll spill over in our parish as well, but early and absentee voting is reported already in Ascension Parish. And with those early numbers, this is the first we're hearing from PSC District 2. Jean-Paul Cousson has 12,511 votes, or good for 52% of the overall vote. Nick Laborde coming in at 23%, Republican Julie Quinn at 24%. That was a race that I've taken particular interest in because it's one of those ones where, not to call office space, but when you look at the Public Service Commission, it's very easy to look at them and say, what would you say you do here? Because essentially what we know of their jobs is to hold the utility companies accountable. But utility companies have way too much power as it is. But they do so much more than that. So having a grasp of what that job actually is, I talked with two of the three candidates in this race, Jean Paul and Julie Quinn. Was never able to get a hold of Nick Laborde. Sadly, I would have liked to have talked to him. But that's the first question I ask in a PSC race is, what's the job description? If you know that, it's half the battle. All right, while we're out in Ascension Parish, mayor's race, city of Donaldsonville. Leroy Sullivan Sr. is up 73% to 27%. Leroy's got himself 1,071 votes already to Glenn Price's 389. You may remember Glenn Price has been in a number of different news stories for different legal reasons. So following that race in particular is going to be a fun one tonight just to see who all is on board. Meanwhile, also in Ascension Parish, Mayor City of Gonzales right now, and this is once again just the early voting that's in. Tim Riley is leading with 1,200 votes, 42% of the vote. He's out in front of Kimlin Bailey Lomas at 23%, and then Harold Stewart's at 20%, and Terrence L. Irvin is at 14%. So pretty evenly split based off of the early voting, or at least enough to where you know there's likely going to be a runoff in that one. Let's move over from Ascension Parish to check in on Livingston Parish and see if we got anything going on in Livingston just yet. Yes, we do. We have early voting reported in Livingston as well. And Livingston also gets a piece of that Public Service Commission District 2. Jean Paul Cousson leading heavily there as well with 55% of the vote. Julie Quinn coming in second in that one with 28% of the vote. So we'll back up to that PSC race in a little bit to take a look at it overall. But right now, parish by parish, Jean Paul's looking good in both Ascension and Livingston. Inside the Livingston Parish, okay, mayor for the village of French Settlement, did you know that they ran for mayor in French Settlement?
I did not.
I thought they just took turns.
Yeah?
I really did. That's, Jeremy Adel is leading right now. He's got 90% of the vote. Jeremy Adel?
He's good so far?
I think he's doing all right.
Yeah.
He's up 163 to 19, which is over, you know what, Roland, I'm going to say Goodbier. Yep, we'll stick with that. Roland Goodbier. Any other races in Livingston Parish that we want to check in on right now?
I'm not familiar with their school board, but it seems like a tight race for the district.
Okay,
too.
So you know what? Since you brought it up, let's do this. Okay, there is a school board race in Livingston Parish right now.
Can't be any closer. Between
Taylor Hubert and Robert Seals Jr., both Republicans. Now, again, this is only early voting and absentee, right? There's 0 of 1 precincts reporting on this one. 1 for 1 on the early voting. And, I'm sorry, 0 of 9 precincts reporting, 1 for 1 on the early voting. Right now, it's 50-50, 1941 to 1931. Hubert has a lead over Seals. So that one's going to be fun to keep an eye on, to be sure. I'm looking at the clock here. We got to hit ABC News. Do what? Yes. Okay. He's technically on the ballot, yes. I hate that. Yep. love this shit so much. Troy says we need more coverage of local races with candidates with cheeky names. Needle Nose, Big Daddy, Frog. We'll be on that shortly. Don't worry. No, but we'll find plenty of them. Oh, did you make mention of a Red Bull? Hallelujah. Use the man. Oh. Patches? Hey, when you retired, you went travel, but not too far. The old Lod Cook spot. Want to get away, but don't want to go far. Yeah. Oh man. Paul Gregory says, "Help! I'm trapped in my bunker and I forgot the code." You might be fine just staying there, Paul. We'll wait and see how it plays out. How long do I have? Nope. No. We're fine. Butthole. It's too early to get any of the mayoral candidates on. Yes, it is election night 2024 right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Brian Haldane here with you, Cade Wazan producing. We're pulling in numbers as quickly as we can get them, but it's slow going to start off, especially here in East Baton Rouge Parish. Waiting on, we're going to check in with Corey Dennis from the State Republican Party here in just a second. I want to talk a little bit about the Republican energy throughout the state today, because what we've been seeing thus far on the presidential front, Kate, go ahead and grab the hotline. What we've seen thus far on the presidential front is that it's overwhelmingly in favor of Trump, but that was not going to be a surprise. How did Republican energy, or how has Republican energy so far transferred down ballot? That's what I want to find out about. That's what I want to know, if that energy has carried over a little bit to make it to the other races. Yes, Donald Trump was going to win Louisiana and win it huge, but is there a translation to the other races? Joining us now from the state's Republican Party is Corey Dennis. Corey, welcome aboard, brother. How are you?
I'm great, Brian. Thanks for having me tonight.
Not glad to have you on here. How's the day been? How's the energy been?
Look, it's been great. I'm excited. Everyone I've talked to is excited. I got a lot of texts and phone calls today of just people cautiously optimistic about Donald Trump. And then also, I mean, look, in Louisiana, the presidential race for us is obviously he's guaranteed our electoral votes, but there's a lot of exciting races here in Louisiana that we're excited about too. Locally.
So we'll walk through a couple of them, because there's a few that I've had my eye on that I've got so many different questions about, and then there's one that, based off of the early voting, I've got all kinds of questions about. So, what were a few of the highlights that the state party's looking at?
Well, obviously, you got to forgive me. I went to a quick dinner, so my cell phone service isn't the best, so I haven't kept up with all the early votes. But obviously, you had Coach Sid Edwards on the other day.
Yes.
We're really excited about getting him in the runoff. Maybe you can provide an update on that. Obviously, Speaker Johnson just won it one-handedly. Julia Letlow, Clay Higgins. We have an interesting PSC race in right here with John Paul and Julie Quinn and that race. So, and then we're all waiting to see what happens with the presidential, right? I think it looks like Trump's going to win Georgia. Waiting to see how North Carolina, Pennsylvania pan out.
And I'm at the same time though, Corey, I'm not expecting anything tonight. I expect to go to bed tonight, wake up tomorrow, still not know, get through my show tomorrow, kick off the special session on tax reform, see a couple of bills pass, still not know. Alabama kicks off on Saturday. Maybe we don't know when College Game Day's on here. Maybe we could let someone from Maricopa County be the guest picker. I don't know.
That'd be exciting. Well, look, and we're still about 25 minutes away from Nevada and Arizona. So
yeah, they're not even closed yet. Right.
It's gonna be a late night or a long week, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, one way or the other. Absolutely. We got Corey Dennis on with us. By the way, there are no updates from Baton Rouge yet. Precincts.
I've been looking at carefully, and I'm patiently waiting for the EBR results.
0 precincts reporting, and the early and absentee numbers are not in yet either. Now, that's not the case in some of the other areas here, Corey, and this was the one that I found the most interesting. So, while you were enjoying dinner, the early voting numbers in the 2nd Congressional District are up to 5 of 10 parishes reporting right now, and Congressman Troy Carter only has 41. They've also got 34 out of 316 precincts reporting. Congressman Carter's only got 41% of the vote right now. There are 2 Republicans in that race, Devin Lance Graham and Christy Lynch, who are splitting exactly 50% of the vote at 24 and 26% respectively. I know it's early, and I know we had huge Republican turnout in the early voting, but I was not expecting Congressman Carter to fall below 70% anywhere in this race at all.
Look, I wasn't expecting that either, if I'll be honest with you. But I do think, look, again, very low reporting right now. Yeah. But I do think it shows, Brian, that people just aren't voting the way they've always voted. They're going to the grocery stores, they're going to the gas pump, and things are more expensive. They're not doing as well as they did 2 years ago or 4 years ago or even 6 years ago, Yeah. And I think what you're seeing is, we'll have to see how it pans out in that race, obviously. But I think what you're seeing is people are not satisfied with the status quo. And whether or not that race finishes one way or the other, that's not going to change that. People are not satisfied with the status quo, and I think this election in Louisiana and across the country showing that.
No, I completely agree with you. Completely agree with you. But Corey, you know everything with me is a sports analogy, right? And when a 16 seed has a first half lead over a 1 seed in the first half of March Madness, you get excited about it.
Look, I think I told you this when you interviewed me when I first got this job. It's a new day for the Republican Party in Louisiana. It's a great time to be a Republican in Louisiana, and I think you're starting to see that this year and certainly in 2026 as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One more I want to touch on before we get you out of here, and I greatly appreciate a couple minutes tonight. I know for everybody who hops on that hotline tonight, you're pulling yourself away from something much more fun. So thank you for hopping on board.
No, for you, Brian, anytime.
Oh, that is the 6th congressional, and by the way, the sentiment is mutual. In the 6th congressional district, this was a district that was hand drawn for Cleo Fields. I mean, he was asked, they let Cleo go door to door and pick which houses he wanted in his district. So this district was hand drawn from Cleo Fields, and I know still very, very early. 8 of 10 parishes reporting, 80 of 650 precincts reporting. Nope. We just upped that. 104 of 650 precincts reporting. Elbert Guillory up 48-43 over Cleo Fields. I've got to ask you about this race on two parts. Number one, did Cleo not try hard enough in the primary? Number two, if Elbert Guillory survives to a runoff, how much national attention is going to focus on this race because of the balance of power in Congress might come down to that seat?
Well, first, I can't really speak to Senator Fields' efforts. I wasn't focused on him. I focus on what I can control, and that's helping Elbert Guillory get to a runoff and hopefully get to D.C., right?
Yeah.
So that's a question for him. But as far as the runoff, I think it brings up a very interesting point, right? If Elbert can get to the runoff, depending on what the congressional map, the House looks like nationally, this could be a very, very interesting runoff where you see, both sides of the aisle putting in a lot of money. So, we understand that, we notice that, and look, I've told people from the beginning there's a pathway for Elbert to get to D.C. and he's a well-known name, well-known font. He's got a great story. He's a great candidate, a great campaigner, works hard, and would be a great congressman. So if he can hold on and get to the runoff, I think the national spotlight could be back in Louisiana.
I completely agree with that. And when you bring that much attention onto one race, now you're talking about you could throw out the majority-minority thing because, well, they are both a minority. Now it comes down to party and belief structure. And does rural Louisiana share the same beliefs as the East and West Coast? Now you can throw out party as well because it's a brand, like you said, it's a brand new day in the Republican Party as to who's voting for whom. So this one is the entire world should be watching this race. This is going to be, indulge me here, this one's just going to be downright fun.
Look, I love my job, and part of the reason I love my job is nights like tonight.
Yeah.
You never know what can happen in a race like this. Look, you had Joe Biden at the top of the ticket until a couple months ago, and now we have a whole new nominee, and God knows what's going to happen there. And we have a real fun opportunity here. And look, I think Elbert's going to make the runoff, and I think you and I will be talking again in the next couple of weeks about what that race looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I talked with Derek Babcock a couple days ago, and he was quite blunt. He said, Brian, money's been hard to come by in that race, which is why I look ahead to the runoff and say, well, if there's national dollars there, if money was your problem got solved.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Derek's exactly right. And look, I love working with Derek, and we both feel the same way about this race. And look, and I think it goes to show, too, if, again, working with Elbert, with the Republican Party and all that, if we can get him in a runoff, right, with little resources, let's say,
yeah,
what can we do when we have all the resources in the world? So yeah. I'm very excited about tonight.
Yeah, of all the sports analogies I have, let me go horse racing here. You've got the horse, now you get to feed him.
That's right. Let's let him eat.
He is Corey Dennis. I appreciate a couple minutes this evening, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian. Talk to you soon.
Always. Yes, sir. 8. Ooh, running low. See, this is the nature of an election night. We get into a conversation, it gets rolling, and we get behind. We'll have some numbers for you next right here on Talk 107.3. Yeah, the analogy I wanted was you've got the horse, now jab him in the ass with steroids. Are we bailing too early by getting out at 10? This is why it's nights like tonight that we need an afternoon drive show. Because if I could hand off from 10 to 11, like the way it should go is me from 8 till 9, me and afternoon drive from 9 to 10. Little metric that you were hearing from ABC News. What precincts have yet to report? Well, Julia Letlow got all of Congressman Graves' Republican votes out of Baton Rouge, and no Baton Rouge precincts have reported yet. So you know there's a buttload of conservatives. St. George is not in yet. Oh, we got numbers. We got EBR numbers. 5650 or 5550? Okay, I'm on it. I'll stay tight this time. I got a little rant I got to go on here. Once it's in the books, it can go on the scroll. Yes. Yeah. Get your I voted sticker. I didn't even bother getting a sticker this time. I'm off it. We've got numbers in East Baton Rouge Parish. Hey, it's Haldane. Hey, Brian Haldane here with you. This is Election Coverage 2024 right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Cade Wazan producing. Thank you to everybody listening on the radio. Hey, if you're on your way home from a late shift or whatever, once you get home, pop us up on Facebook Live or on YouTube. We're available on either of those two platforms. Yeah. While you're watching CNN or Fox News, just go ahead and hit us up. What you got, Cade? You're showing me something.
Yeah, I'm getting a report from our news partners at WBRZ. This may be piggybacking off what you had just seen. Representative Julia Letlow claims re-election victory in the state's 5th congressional district.
So, yes, not too early to call on that one. So that would be 2 of the congressional races that we can call right now because Mike Johnson's got it. I mean, first of all, you don't get rid of the Speaker of the House, damn it. That should just be you. If you're the sitting Speaker of the House, you should run unopposed. Because whether you're in the same party or not, you don't give up that kind of sway. I mean, that's street cred right there. You don't throw that down the tubes. I don't care what party you're in. Anyway, that's a rare exception though. We're going to get you some EBR numbers here in just a quick second. I do want to take 1 second to follow up on what Corey had to say because Corey wouldn't talk about Cleo Fields. I will. This district was hand-carved for Cleo Fields. Yes, we know that. The Republican Party is doing their level best to keep this seat in Republican hands. We know that. There's a third factor here. And by the way, if Cleo Fields does win this, I really, really hope that he'll maintain that DC Current segment that we do every Wednesday. I love checking in with our congressional delegation up in Washington, D.C., because whether you voted for them or not, whether you're in the same party with them or not, they're working for us, plain and simple. Even if you don't like the work they're doing, they're working for us. So I hope they'll keep that going. But there's a third factor in the 6th district race that I don't think either the Republican Party or Cleo Fields saw coming. And that's a young man named Quentin Anthony Anderson, who's probably only going to take home about 8 to 10% of the vote tonight, if that. But what I'm going to be very curious to see is if that percentage that goes to Quentin Anthony Anderson is what keeps Cleo Fields from winning this thing outright. If he was an absolute spoiler in this race. Because when it comes down to it, this young man is thoughtful. He's really, really intelligent. I'm rarely going to agree with him on policy, although he was on my show yesterday. We talked about crime, and he was really, really good on that front. But he is a Democrat. I'm a Republican, so it's a rare day that we're going to agree. But he's got heart and hustle. He wants it. He was getting after it. And he made his case to as many voters as he possibly could. And that case may well be heard by enough voters to force a runoff here because, well, otherwise they would have voted for Cleo Fields. And then you get in the runoff, and like we were talking about with Corey, all those national dollars start rolling in, and now you've got a war chest for Albert Guillory to make his case up and down the 10 parishes in that district. And now it's a whole other battle because one man wanted it and wanted it bad. So, all right, we got 2 minutes till we got a break for top of the hour. Let's get you some numbers out of East Baton Rouge Parish. The early and absentee numbers are still not in East Baton Rouge Parish. However, in the 5th congressional district race here in EBR, Julia Letlow with only 56% of the vote, which understandably that's 19 of 119 precincts reporting. But that is not going to be her strongest point here. Once St. George gets in there, she's going to firm up a little bit. Okay, now to the 6th congressional district race here in EBR. Cleo, bear in mind, it's just EBR. This isn't the whole 6th. Cleo Fields has 66% of the vote here in EBR. Quentin Anthony Anderson, 11% of the EBR vote. And Baton Rouge is his home, so that's expected. Here we go, a couple races within the district. Let's hit the mayor's race before we have to hit news because we know we want to check in on that. All right. 62 of 331 precincts reporting Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome does have the lead. Mayor President Broome with 36% of this vote right now. Ted James is in second right now with 33%. Sid Edwards in at 24%. So those are your big three right there. Steve Myers has 2%. Tammy Cook has 2%, although, if I'm not mistaken, she pulled herself out of the race. Ooh, that's going to be one thing to follow as the night wears on as well. And, in fact, I believe John Cuvion mentioned that on my show last week. Republican votes are hard to come by in East Baton Rouge Parish for the mayor's race, and Sid Edwards needs every one that he can get to fight in a fight for second place. So when you see the votes going 287 to Tammy Cook, 197 to Nathaniel Hearn, and 370 to Steve Myers, that's the number you have to look at to see if that would push Sid Edwards into second. All right, we got a break coming up. We're going to check ABC News, get your latest national numbers, what states are going for Trump, which ones are going for Harris. We shall reconvene in just a few minutes here on Talk 107.3. We shall reconvene? When did I turn into a douche? The hell? Yeah. Let's. No, I've never thought that was funny. I don't know. I'm the only one. Somebody hit me with that the other day. Whoo! Wow. 9 of 29 precincts reporting, and Daryl Hurst is whipping that ass. Daryl Hurst, 77%. Marcus Randall, 18%. They both are, by the way. Tawana Harris has beaten Alfred Bell, 56-44. As if she were Kamala Harris. Right. 50% plus one vote. That's all you need to get out of it. Right. Yeah. You think Champagne went in, voted for himself, and then went back in and drag and voted again? New York, Rhode Island, and Delaware. Okay. Okay. I really need to know which precincts are in. How can I tell which precincts are in? Yeah. But I don't know how to, I don't know where there's no translation. You have the like 01-011, but you don't have like Behringer Foreman Park, you know? That's what I would need to know. All right. Yeah, and the reason I want to know is because I need to know, like, Breck is winning right now. Both. Both Breck items have about 60 to 70% right now, or in between 60 to 70% right now. But if you're traditional, don't ever tax me people, like, for example, St. George, if St. George hasn't voted yet, then, okay, that's my mission before the next election is to learn the effing precincts. This is why I need an intern. Oh, the constitutional amendment's going to fly, boss. You know, I hate being right. I hate being right. Local what? No, I want to come back in. Oh, we got some numbers coming in East Baton Rouge Parish, y'all, in a big, big way. As we were going into the top of the hour break, we gave you the numbers on the mayor's race. Let's just get a quick little recap here overall, all right? Here in the state of Louisiana, statewide numbers is what we're looking at. And I want to start with the presidential race. They declared Louisiana for Donald Trump like as soon as polls closed. This was a no-brainer. There's more than 1 million votes in. 1,082,000 votes have been counted, and 710,778 have gone to Donald Trump. That's 66% of the vote, with 1,613 of 3,805 precincts reporting. 60 of 64 parishes have their early voting numbers in. This was a no-brainer. This was an easy call that Donald Trump was going to win the state of Louisiana as far as the presidency is concerned. Constitutional amendment number 1. Although you don't number it number 1 when it's the only one. It's just the constitutional amendment that's on this ballot is way out in front, 72 to 20. Dadgummit, y'all. 72 to 28. I apologize. I've been coughing like crazy all night long, and my laptop is in between me and the cough button. Hang on. All right.
You all right, Flynn Brandt?
Bro. Whew. All right, dialed back in. Let's go. For the multi-parish races here, looking at our congressional seats. Steve Scalise, this is all but over. He's got 69% of the vote in the 1st district with 151 out of 521. 121 out of 528 precincts reporting. A 2nd congressional district, Troy Carter is inching towards the lead right now, or I should say inching towards 50%. There are 2 Republicans in this race that through the early voting picked up more than half of the early vote. Those numbers are down to about 40% of the vote for Devin Lance Graham and Christy Lynch. Congressman Carter has moved up to 49% of the vote here. As those precincts continue to roll in, I have no doubt he's going to roll later on tonight. Clay Higgins, he's all done. He's got 72% of the vote with 297 out of 557 precincts reporting. Mike Johnson, 86% of the vote to Joshua Morat's 14%. And yes, Mike Johnson had a competitor on the ballot from the same party as him. But he's pistol whipping him right now. Metaphorically, figuratively speaking, to be sure. Let's just be very clear about that. The 5th has already been called for Julia Letlow, who I just got word from her people. They're trying to get her through the crowd to a quiet place so that she can hop on the phone to get in here with us. So we're working on that one right now. Julia Letlow at 65% of the vote, 25% to Michael Valian Jr., the Democrat in the race. And there's 399 of 685 precincts reporting there with Julia Letlow, and a comfortable lead in WBRZ has already called it for Letlow. In the 6th, man, this is neck and neck. Okay, Cleo Fields has now passed up Elbert Guillory, but just barely. Fields has got 46% of the vote. Elbert Guillory, 44% of the vote. Quentin Anthony Anderson, the wild card I've been talking about, is at 7%. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on that race throughout the night, obviously. Now, over to EBR. What are we looking at in East Baton Rouge Parish? Well, I'm refreshing to make sure I have the latest numbers for you. And with that, view results. Let's start with the mayor's race. Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome with 89 of 331 precincts reporting, so we're not even a third of the way through yet. Mayor President Broome has 1/3 of the vote, 33%. Ted James, 32%. Sid Edwards, 28%. Scrolling down here, there's no results in from District 1. That would be Brandon Knowles' district. That would be a Brown Zachary. No results in from District 2, where Eugene Collins got the endorsement of Future PAC in that race. Metro Council District 5, Darrell Hurst is just ripping into Marcus Randall right now, 77% to 17%. Now, there's 10 of 29 precincts reporting, so they're 1/3 of the way done in that district, but that is a significant lead that Marcus Randall's going to have to overcome. One might say Marcus Randall might need a Hail Mary? A bluegrass miracle? No rim shot for me, Cade. Oh. I gave you no warning on it. No sweat at all. Twana Harris over in District 7 is up 54-46 over Alfred Bell. They're about a third of the way through their precincts. Only 2 precincts reporting in District 10. Carolyn Coleman with a commanding lead, 64-36 over Jasmine David Spencer. In District 11, and this one's an interesting one here, Lori Adams. Lori Adams, who has been in the news in a very negative light lately, still pulling down 67% of the vote thus far. And they are more than halfway through. 17 of 29 precincts reporting, and Lori Adams up big over Penny Mae Landry. Moving down ballot a little further inside Baton Rouge, City Court Judge, Division C. Niles Hamer trailing Brittany Bryant Jordan right now, 52-48. That's a tight race with 78 of 209 precincts that are in thus far. In the constables race, Terrica Williams has a 54-46 lead, same number on the precincts there. Now, let's get into some fun, okay? The parish-wide home rule charter, and we're going to talk with Metro Councilman Dwight Hudson, who ran unopposed. Didn't run unopposed, he just won. We're going to talk with him about this at the bottom of the hour, coming up in a little while, 20 minutes from right now. The home rule charter's getting knocked down 56-44 with 89 of 331 precincts reporting. Now, this was the proposal to get a city manager. This was a proposal to clean up a lot of things within our city parish government. But at the same time, though, this was 46 or 47 items all bundled into one. And voters were asked to just say thumbs up, thumbs down on the whole thing. And one of the things that we talked about on the morning show quite a bit is, man, if you give voters the opportunity to say no to something bad, are they going to throw away? Like, if you've got a dozen good items and one bad item, are you going to say no to avoid the bad item? And one of the things that caught some negative public perception on this one was the Metro Council would have been able to give themselves a raise. Now, they work for $1,000 a month, and it's a ridiculously overwhelming job hours-wise. So on that front, I wasn't really scared of that idea of them giving themselves a raise because God knows they probably should have it. But at the same time, though, you tell the public that a public official can give themselves a raise, and that thumb's going down every time. And that's what it's looking like right now at 56-44. Corey Wilson thus far is having himself a heck of a night. Breck has 2 items on the ballot. Both of them renewals, by the way, or renewal-ish. They're re-uppings of previous millages. Prop numbers 1 and 2 for 4.10 and 2.10 mill renewals for 10 years for Breck is winning 64-36 right now. Same 89 of 331 precincts reporting. Then the second one that Breck's got going on, which is for 3.253 mills for a 20-year master plan. This is Imagine Your Parks 3.0, and then wherever it goes from there. That one's up 59-41. So both Breck items right now are in the lead early on. Move over to City of Baton Rouge 6 mills, which is a horribly described way to say give the firefighters a much-deserved pay raise. That one's kicking butt, and I'm happy for it. 70-30. Look, I talked to a lot of people leading up to the election about, like, you know, what's my take on different issues that are on the ballot. And I do my level best on most of them to say, I'm not going to tell you how to vote. That's not my place on that one. I was like, please vote yes. I was unabashedly in favor of that one. Give our firefighters a pay raise, please. And so far, so good. 70-30 in that one. 72 of 196 precincts reporting on that front. Checking back in with the Congresswoman real quick. We're also efforting I apologize. Give me one quick second here. Doing this in real time.
I'll add something. It
Please.
Came across that Republican Clay Higgins wins his reelection to the U.S. House in Louisiana's 3rd Congressional District. Probably not surprised. Not surprised
at all. Clay Higgins is an interesting cat. He's one. I haven't had him on.
I like interesting because it's hard to.
Okay, so he's about as MAGA Republican can be, right? I mean, he is more pro-Trump than Donald Trump is, right?
That's a fair statement. Yeah.
Yes, but he got the gig because he was the St. Landry Parish Crime Stoppers guy. Remember when he was first elected? He was elected because he had those viral videos where he would call out criminals and call them scum and dirt and worms and I pray for your soul, you maggot. You're robbing from good people. You're stealing from these honest people who own their own family market. Like the viral videos as the St. Landry Parish Crime Stoppers guy got him elected to a body of 435 representatives throughout the entire country.
Like an influencer on Instagram getting.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. But the fact that he's strapped on a 3-piece suit, he's taken to the books, he's learning on a Well, he should have learned by now. But the learning curve, he caught up to the learning curve. That's what I'm trying to say. He caught up to the learning curve while in D.C. He took on the task, and he's tackling it. And you might not like all of his takes. You might not like all of his opinions. But for the 3rd Congressional District, they're responding in kind. Hey, we gave you the gig because you were just a hoot on YouTube, and now look what you're doing for us up in Washington, D.C. It's just following his very, very human story is another fun one. So, all right, we're due up for another break here. Efforting to get Julia Letlow right now. Congressman Carter's looking like he's going to be a no-go. I can also tell you this right now that we were supposed to have Secretary of State Nancy Landry on tonight. I got word 2 minutes before we went on air that she was going to have to cancel, and I should have seen this one coming. It is the busiest night of the year for her. This is basically Christmas Eve in Santa's workshop as far as the Secretary of State's office is concerned. Completely understand. We'll catch up with Nancy Landry on the morning show at some time in the very near future. Right now, though, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We got more numbers for you and a few more guests next. Yeah. Who? Just Dwight Hudson's calling us at the 30 segment. Bitch, you've never even had dried crickets. Have you ever had crickets? They're awesome. I mean, I've had them covered in chocolate. We're coming up on 9:19 in the PM on Election Day 2024. Brian Haldane here with you for election coverage on Talk 107.3 FM. And, yep, all right. I apologize. I'm doing a lot of texting in real time, and it seems like I'll text during the break, and nobody will text me back until right as we come back in. So trying to line up a couple of the mayoral candidates here in this segment. It's looking like one of them's not going to be till next segment. As we're starting to get a clearer picture of.
I'll take this time to remind you.
Please, yes.
You can watch tonight's show on Facebook Live, Talk 1073 page. Also, if you go to talk1073.com, on the homepage, the top flipper, there is one that we have had up for a while for election coverage. And there's still the page where you can hear past interviews. But tonight, if you click the link for the election coverage on the flipper, it'll bring you right to this video. So just a couple ways you can watch us live tonight, whether it's on Facebook.
We're getting back in the YouTube game here, too.
That is true.
Yep. That's, well, let's be full disclosure. We're kind of soft launching it a little bit.
Yeah.
As we're moving to a multi-platform here.
Talk 1073 Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
We'll have an official launch soon, but that's another place you can catch it.
All right. Back into some of the numbers here. Thank you for that, Kate. I was able to respond to the text accordingly. Okay. Let's check in at Livingston Parish real quick. They've got a couple races worth looking at for sure. And one of those is, you remember that school board race we were talking about in our last hour, Cade, where it was deadlocked?
District 2?
That was District 2 with Taylor Hubert versus Robert Seals Jr. Yeah, that bad boy's still 50-50. Now, the tables have turned a little bit as Robert Seals Jr. is up 3,920 votes to 3,899. So one more vote for Hubert. That's a 21-vote differential right now. A 21-vote differential in a Livingston Parish school board race. Okay. Every time an election rolls around, you have the big ticket items. We all know Trump won Louisiana. You have the big ticket items. We're checking in on the congressional races. We're checking in on the mayor-president's race here in Baton Rouge. But you also have those down-ballot items that I just get downright romantic about because this is what our process is all about. Your vote friggin' matters. And Livingston Parish is seeing that firsthand right now when you've got a 21-vote differential in School Board District 2.
It says 9 of 9 precincts.
Oh, so that one's over with because the early numbers are in as well.
Unofficial turnout of 71.8%.
Okay.
So,
all right. Yeah. So that the turnout is the number of people that showed up. So, but it looks like everything's counted in that one. So 7,819 ballot or votes were cast in that race, and Robert Seals Jr. looks like he won by 21. They're done there.
Just to show you how much
21 votes.
Difference. Yeah.
That's a tailgate party. That's a family reunion.
Mm-hmm.
That's half of a family reunion. 21 votes. Meanwhile, the mayor for the village of French Settlement, not even close. Jeremy Adel just ripping, rolling. I'm going to say Gutbier. It might be Gutbier. Gutbier.
The BA is probably the part I would say is correct. I mean, it has to be that. Anything with an IER like that. But yeah.
Anyway, pretty one of one precincts reporting there, 473 to 84. So Roland's all done there. David Addison wins for chief of police over there in Walker. 62% of the vote for him. And chief of police in the town of Livingston goes to Randy Dufresne. Moving over to Ascension Parish to get the numbers in Ascension Parish. And by the way, just as an aside, we're counting you down to checking in with ABC News here at 9:30. So about 7 minutes from right now, we'll check in with ABC News, get the latest nationwide from them. Ascension Parish, there were a couple of mayor's races on the dead blasted.
Mayor Gonzalez.
Mayor of Gonzalez is on the ballot right there. And
I think the Donaldsonville one is
pretty
much wrapped up.
Donaldsonville is over with. Leroy Sullivan Jr. Is your winner with 66% of the vote to 34 for Glenn Price. Glenn Price had himself some problems, man. This is a race where, I guess it was just 1 week ago. The Advocate was reporting on it. I've got the tab open somewhere here because I knew I was going to talk about it. This was 1 week ago. A Donaldsonville mayoral candidate who was arrested, accused of profiting more than $25,000 from the sale of stolen copper wire, is facing additional charges in the case, the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office said in a news release. Glenn Price turned himself into the sheriff's office last Thursday on additional felony counts of money laundering over $100,000 and illegal transmission of monetary funds, bonded out of jail the same afternoon. He was originally booked on 11 counts of illegal possession of stolen things. I mean,
they'll get you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But basically, he's going all Sopranos on with the copper wire, allegedly. But his name's still on the ballot. What's worse is he's got this stack of charges going up against him, and 34% of Donaldsonville said, "That's my guy." All right, we got mayor in the city of Gonzales is going to go to a runoff here as well. All the precincts are in, all the early votes are in. Tim Riley, everybody in this race is the Democrat. Tim Riley took home 44% of the vote right there. Tim will be in a runoff with Kimlin Bailey Lomas, who got 23%. Harold Stewart pulled in 18, and Terrence L. Irvin pulled in 14 in that one. Those were the two biggies over in Ascension Parish that I wanted to check in on. Let's bring it back around to East Baton Rouge Parish as numbers just continue to roll in. I love this time of night because this is when we start to see so much movement. By the way, Kate, are you keeping one eye on the hotline?
Oh,
I'm waiting
will
on
do, yes.
Yeah. I know there's some folks. Yep. Do me a favor. Call this number. Oh, there you go. All right, cool. We know we got some folks that will be calling in throughout the evening. And was that Dwight? Okay, Metro Councilman Dwight Hudson is on with us right now. Good. I was hoping he wasn't going to wait until after the news break there because we got a number of candidates still to get on. Dwight, how are you this evening, man?
Hey, good, Brian. How about you?
Doing very well as well. My apologies. My laptop was blocking the phone, so I couldn't see the little flashy light. And Cade's monitor was on the opposite side, so he had the flashy light behind him. So I appreciate your persistence getting back in here.
All good, brother. All good.
All right. Parish-wide, home rule charter. It's looking right now like it's looking right now like it's not going to make it. I mean, let's be honest.
That's my take on it as well. Look, unfortunately, it's a very difficult item to explain. And we did hear a lot of feedback from voters who said, look, we like a lot of individual pieces of this, but it's really tough to digest it when it's all one item. So I think that was sort of the one major fatal flaw of that item. Still a lot of really good ideas, maybe that we should bring back in individual pieces. But as of right now, that's how the results are sort of panning out.
Okay, now the way Rowdy Goday explained this to me was that you'd have to have 47 different items on the ballot in order to do everything that this one item wanted to do, right? Is there a way to unpack, say, the top 5 and put them together on another ballot? Yeah, everybody wanted the city manager.
Yeah, you're going to have to group some items together. There's no doubt that you can't break everything up individually. Mm-hmm. But there are some major items like the city manager that ought to be taken a vote, or that could be taken as a vote individually, right? And so I think that will be something that the council will explore in the coming months. And then, of course, get resident feedback and move forward from there.
What item among the 47 got y'all the most pushback?
Once you explain the items to folks, there was really not much pushback. And that's the odd thing. The pushback really was, look, as a voter, I've got to be able to digest this, right? And it's really tough when there's that many pages to sift through. And so, I think if there's one item that folks want to point to, it would probably be removing the pay from the plan of government. But again, once you explain that issue to folks,
Whoa. Say that removing the pay from the plan of government, meaning the Metro Council getting the ability to give themselves a raise.
Getting the ability to set the next council's raise.
Yes. And I think if it just be blunt honesty, that's going to cause mostly conservatives. That's going to cause a lot of people to give pause and say, listen, Dwight, I trust you. I trust Jen. I trust Rowdy. I trust Daryl. I don't know the next guy. I don't know the next gal. Like that's one that I think held a lot of people back, to be sure.
Right. No doubt. It's definitely, it's one of those items where it probably deserves to be voted on by itself. And certainly that's something that we'll have to look at in the future. But I would just encourage folks, as we do look at all of these individual items, particularly that one. Look, we've got to attract more people to these local races. If this election cycle is any indication, you've had very uncompetitive races, and in most of the races you didn't have competitors at all. So you've got to make the position more attractive to get people to participate in these local races.
Oh, so let's be very blunt about that as well. On the flip side, y'all make $1,000 a month. Like that's ridiculously low.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and I'm not saying I'm not going to say we need better candidates because I feel like you're a really good candidate. I feel like Aaron Moak is a really good candidate. I'm proud to have voted for him. He was unopposed this time, but when he did run, but in the overall scheme of things, I mean, look, it's 9:30 at night and you're defending your position on talk radio. Like this is a full-time gig.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though, Brian. Competition is what makes great candidates. It's what makes great elected officials, right?
Yeah.
It's entering that arena of ideas, going out and explaining to people what you're going to do, and then having to back that up. If you don't have an opponent, you don't even have to have a position on anything, and so that's really unfortunate. So again, we've got to make these local races more competitive. We've got to give the incentive for folks to come out and throw their hat in the ring and take part of the process.
Last one before I get you out of here, Dwight. You're unopposed. Does that deprive you of a victory party?
No, so I'm sitting out here at Mayor Pro Tem Brandon Knowles' victory party. So no, we're still celebrating tonight.
All right. Well, tell David St. Remain I said hello.
Yeah, absolutely, I will do it.
Tell Brandon hello too. I mean, I want to get him on before the night's over.
Yeah, I'll go grab him for you. Tell him to call in.
Awesome. Appreciate it. He is Dwight Hudson. Thanks for a couple minutes.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Here's ABC News. No shit. God bless the franchise. God bless that man. Oh, I miss him. Well, but none of it was backed up by fact. All of it was 100% conjecture, opinion. All right, Donald Trump's up 198 to 112. That should be Sid. No. I still want the local news. Three minutes is okay. All right. Says Red Bull's not going to wear off until like 1 a.m., right? That's my ass. No. 8.5 ounces is plenty for 9 o'clock at night when you got a 6 a.m. show. What, storm? Yeah. It shouldn't delay high school football. It's barely going to be across the Gulf on Thursday. Yeah, Sunday thing at that. Yeah. Well, a run game for the Saints? Or no, for LSU on Saturday? No. All right. Are we back right here? All right. It is election night 2024. Numbers continue to roll in, and don't look now. But in the lead for mayor president is one coach, Sid Edwards. He's on the hotline with us right now. Out in front now. It's not over yet. 167 of 331 precincts reporting. But right now, Sid Edwards has 35% of the vote. Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome at 30%. Ted James pulling 29 right now. Coach, welcome aboard. How you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling good, Brian, but I'm a coach, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like we're near halftime, so I don't know what a lead means in this arena.
Understood. It's a weird. Okay, so let's talk about that little dichotomy right there, because when you're a coach and you go in at halftime, you can make adjustments. At this point, you're at halftime, but you can't make adjustments. So how's that feeling right about now for your first race?
I mean, I'm very humbled. I'm very grateful. Appreciative of my team and appreciative of the voters that feel I'm worthy of this position. It means a lot.
We got Sid Edwards on with us. He's running for mayor president of of Baton Rouge, and as it stands right now, he's got 35% of the vote with 167 precincts reporting. Walk me through a little bit about today, Coach. What was the game plan for today? Where were you at? Were you standing on the street corner waving and having folks honk at you?
Well, I started off with football practice with my Struma Indians. I'm not leaving them boys alone. We had to get that in. a couple of waving opportunities were out there. I met with my team, voted. I went to vote. So a really good day. And then hour and a half prior to our little watch party, I found somewhere to hide just with my right-hand man. And we hid out and then headed on over.
Over the last couple months, on my show a couple days ago, or the days run together. Last week when you were on the show, you said the last couple months when learning about the issues, when taking on the nitty gritty of what's important in Baton Rouge, you said it's like drinking from a fire hose. How has that evolution, how has it changed you over this time?
It hasn't changed like my soul and my mantra and who I am, but it's changed my mindset once I've dug into some of the intricacies of everything. And I'm telling you, 4 years of college, well, I went like 14 years to college, but all that time, I've learned more in these 3 months than I've done my whole life. Some stuff is absolutely, just mind-boggling. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, but just how much I've learned and the curve and how things work. It's just soaking it all in best I can.
We just added another roughly 100 precincts to the count right here while you're on the phone, Coach, and you're still holding at 34%, up to 269 reporting right now. You're at 58,199 votes to Mayor President Broom's 53,031. Either way, you're looking at, it is still too premature to call anything right now, but the way it stands right now is if you're in one of those top two spots, this is going to put you into a runoff. Does the game plan change for the runoff? Is there how does Sid Edwards work in overtime?
Well, as far as the overall game plan, I've heard that runoffs are a little different, but in terms of my mantra and who I am as a person, integrity and running with class and character, that won't change. It's time for positivity in Baton Rouge. And we want to push that sunshine, A lot of folks, I'm described as a kind man. I like to think I am, but I'm not a weak man. And so we're going to run hard, but we're going to run clean and not change that at all.
He is Sid Edwards. Now, okay, so do we still need to call you Emil if you're going to be on the runoff ballot as well?
Well, yeah, I've got some aliases there. So we got to see what we're going to put on there.
All right. Well, we'll go back to Coach until it's time to start paying attention again.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for a couple minutes tonight.
Hey, we appreciate y'all.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Baton Rouge.
Yep. He is Coach Sid Edwards there, pulling 34% of the vote right now. In fact, I probably shouldn't have let him go yet because in 10 seconds the numbers are going to refresh. And when the numbers do refresh, we're going to have some more precincts in here, hopefully. So I tell you what, let's give that a look real quick. And it held at 269. All right. So where we stand right now in Baton Rouge is Sid Edwards has 34% of the vote, 58,199 to Sharon Weston Broom's 31%, which is 53,031 votes. Ted James is pulling 28% right now, 28% of Baton Rouge voting for Ted James. That's 47,934. Now, there's still a good number of precincts that have not reported yet. Like we said, this is only 269 out of 331. So there's another 62 that are left to go. Within those 62, it's a matter of where they are and who they're going to be voting for. That's going to change things up a little bit. So let's walk down the path for just a second of assuming the numbers stay the same. Because having a 3-horse race like this, there's so many different wild cards. Assuming the numbers stay the same, what's this going to look like for the runoff? Where does Ted James's vote come from? Does Ted James's vote come from, let's say, more Democrat voters than Republican voters? Now, he is a Democrat, but he has been endorsed by a number of Republicans who have wanted a change at the top in Baton Rouge. A number of Republicans who have said, a Republican can't win in Baton Rouge. We like Ted James on the business front, better than we like Sharon Weston Broome. And I'm quoting here, or not quoting, but just gonna following along here, the storyline. So for those in that camp, how big of a chunk of Ted James's vote is that camp? Because that could be the difference between them going back, Ted James's vote going to Sharon Weston Broome, or Ted James's vote going to Sid Edwards. That is going to be the wild card here. Now, secondary wild card is, let's say in these last 62 precincts that need to come in, Ted James surpasses Sharon Weston Broome. Now you have a Ted James Sid Edwards runoff. What does that look like? What does that look like when the Republicans who tried to split the baby and threw their support behind Ted James now have a Republican in the runoff? Do they still stick with the same guy? Do they dance with who brung them? Or do they pivot over to Sid Edwards? Now let's look at a third scenario here, which is the most unlikely at this point based off of the numbers that are already in, and that would be a Broome-James runoff. Well, that was the initial thought in this whole race, was to see a Broome-James runoff. So where does Sid Edwards' votes go? My guess would be primarily towards James. So Ted James sitting at 28% right now. By the way, before we take this break real quick, let me run through the council districts that are still up and running and that are wide open right now. Brandon Knoll, who we're hoping to get on the hotline before we get out of here, he's got 44% of the vote, 17 of 23 precincts reporting. Brandon Knoll is up 44-39 over Eric Smith Jr. Gary Price is in third in that one with 17% of the vote. Metro Council District 2, Eugene Collins, who's got Future PAC's endorsement. He's got 34% of the vote to Anthony Kenny and 31%, Dina Johnson and Tia Mills at 17% apiece. There are 29 of 37 precincts reporting in District 2. Metro Council District 5, this one's long since been over. They're not done yet. It's 23 of 29 precincts reporting. Darrell Hurst has 78% of the vote in this race to Marcus Randall's 18%. And Riddell Norman has 5%. It's fair to call that one 78-18 with only 6 precincts to go. Metro Council District 7, Alfred Bell versus Twana Harris. This is the district that used to be former Mayor Pro Tem, now School Superintendent Lamont Cole's district. Twana Harris, who ran Lamont Cole's office, she was the aide. Twana Harris has 53% of the vote in that two-person race. 27 of 32 precincts reporting. So with 5 precincts left, she's got a 6-point lead. Probably a safe lead at this point, but it's only a two-person race, so we'll see. Metro Council District 10, that's downtown. Carolyn Coleman up 61-39 over Jasmine Davis Spencer. Metro Council District 11, and this one's one we've kept a pretty close eye on. Lori Adams has 67% of the vote. Penny Mae Landry, who's listed as no party, has 33% of the vote. And this is an interesting one because Lori Adams, who has been a solid Metro Council person, has found herself in the news in a very negative light lately. Through stories about her husband and her tie-ins to some potential wrongdoing. I don't want to break down the details because I don't know what's alleged, what's proven, and what's out there and whatnot. But in spite of those headlines, in spite of those the potential negative press there, or I shouldn't say potential negative press, it is negative press. In spite of all that, Lori Adams pulling 67% of the vote. Moving over to City Judge, we got Niles Hamer and Brittany Bryant Jordan are not tied, but it's pretty darn close. Brittany Bryant Jordan has a roughly 500 vote lead, but they're both at 50%, like within the 50% range, rounding up, rounding down. Tarika Williams is up 54-46 over C. Denise Marcel in the Constables race. Looking at the home rule charter that we talked with Dwight Hudson about, that's a 60-40 split right now. I don't see that one narrowing at all. Breck is up big in their first millage, 60-40. The second millage that they've got there is 53-47. That one's a lot tighter. That's the 20-year one. And it's looking like Baton Rouge firefighters are going to get their raise. 158 of 196 precincts reporting. Baton Rouge Fire Department up 68-32. Quick break. We'll come back, close out our local coverage next. Really? I think it's the state of Iowa. The state of Iowa and their 6 electoral votes. Iowa. Well, it's closing in on 10 o'clock here, y'all. We're going to hand off on the air. We're going to sign off on Facebook Live and on YouTube in just a couple minutes. We're going to hand off on the air to ABC News. Pivot over to national coverage. I've been doing my level best to ignore the national scene tonight. I mean, we talked with Brian Clark in our first hour. He's on ABC News' decision desk. God, that was a cool conversation. I'm sorry. There's some things I just nerd out on, and this is one of them. When do you call a state and how? And no, he did not have the secret sauce. But he did have a whole wealth of information about where we are right now. By the way, once this show is over with on Facebook Live, you can go rewatch any part of it. I would highly recommend going back to, what was it, 8:15, 8:16, up in there. 16 minutes into the broadcast was when Brian hopped on, and it was phenomenal. But I've been doing my level best to try and ignore the presidential race. ABC's got you covered on that front. But I got to admit, in the last break, I did pull up the map. I did pull up the electoral map. And Donald Trump has a 210 electoral vote, 210 electoral to Harris's 113 right now. That being said, this is far from over. As Maine, New Hampshire, Virginia, and New Mexico are all solid Harris leans right now, but they haven't been called yet. Maine only has 4 votes, 4 electoral votes. New Hampshire is 4 electoral votes. Virginia is 13, and New Mexico is 5. So even if Harris pulls all 4 of those, that's not your big chunk. The big chunk here is California, obviously, because California results are expected. Actually, we should see California results start to come in about 5 minutes from right now. So by the time we hand off to ABC News, they should be zeroing in on some results out of California. Not sure how long before they call it. Now, that being said, we're still looking at Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona have not been called yet either. But whose map is this? Oh, I've got the Associated Press's map. They're all a pink lean right now, which means leaning towards Donald Trump. Now, if Trump pulls all of those, which Pennsylvania and Arizona are going to be big question marks for some time, but if he pulls all of those, it's over with. Let's see. He's got 210 right now. Gotta love real-time math on the radio. Minnesota is good for 10 votes. That brings him up to 220. Wisconsin is good for 10. That would be 230. All right, moving along. Michigan. Oh, if he could pull Michigan, that would be huge. That's another 15, so he'd be at 245. North Carolina is 16. So, what would be 261 at that point? 45 plus 16, doing real-time math here, would be 45 plus 16, 261. And then when you add Georgia to that, Georgia's 16 as well, which puts you over 270. So he would be at his magic number if he were to grab all of those, and that's not counting Pennsylvania or Arizona. That's interesting. All right. That's what we're looking at right now. We've got 1 minute to go. I would be remiss if I didn't spend this last minute talking about that which is local. We're going to re-hit the congressional races real quick, and then retouch on the mayor's race before we get out of here. In the first congressional district that belongs to Steve Scalise, 67% of the vote, 495 out of 528 precincts reporting. That one's all but done. Second congressional district, Troy Carter has surpassed 54%, and I'm guessing will continue to grow that lead. 489 out of 617 precincts reporting. Carter is now beyond a runoff in that one. Clay Higgins won the third with 71% of the vote. They've still got some more votes to count there. Mike Johnson, just an absolute mop the floor with Joshua Marat, 86-14. Now, there's still a couple precincts that are outliers there. Julia Letlow, who never made it through the crowd over her party to get on the show, she's a winner, 63% of the vote there. And in the sixth, we've got a dogfight, y'all. Cleo Fields has pushed ahead of 50% of the vote right now. He's at 51% to Albert Guillory's 38, Quentin Anthony Anderson at 8. In the, you know what? In the mayor's race, Sid Edwards is hanging on to his lead. We got to get out of here. I'll be back at it 6 a.m. tomorrow. Stick around, Facebook. We're going to go for another minute or so, just so I can give the full update there. I know, I got to go home. But we got 309 of 331 precincts reporting in Baton Rouge. Sid Edwards is still holding at 34%, Mayor President Broome at 31%, and Ted James at 28%. So, not looking good for Ted James at this point. The opportunity to make up ground just doesn't seem to be there for him. He would need a pretty big swing. He's trailing Mayor Broome by, forget about percentages and precincts and all that, he's trailing Mayor Broome by 5,300 votes. So looking like he's going to get edged out here, and it's going to be Sid versus Sharon in the runoff. So, guys, thank y'all for playing along tonight. Thank you for sticking with us through the coverage. I will be back at it at 6 a.m. with complete numbers, 6 till 9. Now, bear in mind, tomorrow morning show, we'll do a lot on the numbers from tonight, but also tomorrow, a special session on tax reform begins. We're going to have a slew of, well, I shouldn't say a slew of guests. Mike Bayham is on Ways and Means. He's going to join us. Jack McFarland is going to join us. He's on the House side as well, with significant interest in this special session. And Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute is going to hop on board too. So, plus we'll have Congressman Garrett Graves, who got to go to bed at a reasonable hour on an election night. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Later on.